Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. So imagine paying $70 for a birthday package on a cruise, opening your cabin door on your big day and realizing they didn't even give you a cake.
Wow, yeah, that's definitely a surprise.
Right. Today, we're looking at why missing cakes or, rerouted world cruises and even knockdown walls on ships are all part of this massive hidden re-engineering of the cruise industry.
Yeah, it really is happening everywhere right now.
Exactly.
Wow.
From global security reroutes to ship refreshes and even those birthday perks, today's stories show how cruise lines are reshaping itineraries and onboard experiences in ways passengers will actually feel.
And it is such a fascinating evolution to watch, honestly, because we tend to view cruise ships as these, I don't know, static floating resorts, right? You book a ticket, you board, and the golding just stays the same.
Yeah, you expect it to be just a fixed hotel.
Exactly. But the reality of modern cruising is incredibly fluid. I mean, the industry is constantly ripping up the floorboards, sometimes literally, sometimes metaphorically.
Which is exactly what we're talking about today.
Right. They're doing this to react to major macroeconomic forces or geopolitical risk and even deep behavioral data on how you actually spend your time in your stateroom.
So that actually brings us to our first story. And in this case, we were talking about literally ripping up the floorboards.
Literally ripping them up, yeah.
Yeah. So Holland America Line's Koningsdam just returned to guest service on March 29th, 2026. And this was after a 2-week dry dock at the Grand Bahama Shipyard in Freeport.
2 weeks is, I mean, that is fast.
Right. For anyone who hasn't tracked a dry dock schedule, 2 weeks is a wildly compressed timeline to pull a multi-ton vessel out of the water, drain it, and essentially rebuild sections of it.
It is a phenomenal logistical feat, honestly. During that 2-week window, they certainly did, the standard class-related inspection.
Mandatory stuff.
Right, the mandatory safety stuff. Just to define that, class-related inspections are basically the maritime equivalent of a massive vehicle safety inspection. It's required by insurance, international law, all of that.
Checking the hull, the azipods, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Checking hull thickness, scraping marine growth, all of that. But the regulatory upkeep isn't the real story here. The focus was entirely on the guest-facing side.
Getting it ready for the next route.
Yeah, specifically preparing the ship for where it's going next.
Right, because Koningsdam is currently doing a Caribbean run, but it's heading through the Panama Canal around April 10th.
Right.
Then hitting San Diego on April 20, and then arriving in Vancouver on May 2 to start its summer Alaska deployment.
And the Alaska market is the key here. The mechanics of that market are the entire reason Holland America made these specific structural changes.
So how does Alaska change the ship?
Well, the Alaska market is arguably one of the most fiercely competitive arenas in the entire cruise industry right now. Like decades ago, simply having a ship positioned in the inside passage was enough.
The scenery was the product, basically.
Exactly. The scenery out the window was the whole point.
Yeah.
But today, that scenery is just a baseline expectation. Ships have to maximize the internal passenger experience.
Because of who's sailing now.
Yeah, the demographic sailing to Alaska has shifted really heavily toward multi-generational families.
Which is exactly where the sledgehammers come in, right? Because during this short dry dock, Holland America managed to add 5 brand new ocean view staterooms.
Not just standard rooms either.
Right. These are specifically designed to sleep up to 4 people. They have 2 lower beds that convert to a queen and a double sofa bed. But the most critical detail here is that 4 of these 5 new cabins are connecting rooms.
And they didn't stop there.
No, they went into 22 of the existing Vista suites and swapped in new sofa beds to push the capacity limits up there too.
And if we look at the underlying motivation here, connected cabins solve a massive migraine-inducing logistical headache for these multi-generational families.
Oh, I can imagine. Trying to book for grandpas and toddlers.
Exactly. Booking a trip for grandparents, parents, and kids is a complex puzzle. If a family is spending tens of thousands of dollars on an Alaska vacation, but the cruise line cannot physically offer them connecting or adjacent rooms,
They'll just go somewhere else.
yeah, that family is going to take their money to a competitor who can. So Holland America recognized a demographic shift and literally altered the physical steel of their ship to accommodate it.
Okay, I love the problem solving there. But let's look at the other changes they made, because this is where I start to see like a deeper psychological strategy happening.
The entertainment district.
Yes,
Yeah.
they completely redesigned the entertainment district, specifically this area between Billboard On Board and the Rolling Stone Lounge.
Right.
They added seating inside both venues, but they also created this new shared lounge seating right in the middle. And the corporate phrasing is that they wanted a refreshed layout for a more open, connected environment.
Yeah, that is a very carefully constructed piece of corporate messaging right there.
It really is. I read that, and my mind instantly goes to Vegas casinos.
Oh, absolutely. The open floor plan.
Right. Think about it. You never put solid doors on the high roller rooms or the lively lounges in Las Vegas. You want the sounds of winning, the clinking glasses, the live music to spill out onto the main walking paths.
You want to draw people in.
Exactly. By removing the physical barriers between the free entertainment and the surrounding areas, Holland America is really removing the psychological barriers.
And it becomes incredibly obvious when you see what else they did alongside this.
They expanded the casino footprint.
They did, and they did a massive refresh of the Effie Jewelry Boutique with new floors and high-end lighting.
Yep. And in their specialty dining venues, so places like Pinnacle Grill, Celle de Mer, Club Orange, they ripped out the fixed tables and swapped them for movable seating.
And that movable seating is actually a brilliant piece of hidden economics.
How so? Walk us through the math of a table on a ship.
Well, think about a restaurant on land versus a restaurant at sea. If a family of 6 wants to eat at the Pinnacle Grill, but the tables are physically bolted to the floor in setups of 4, you have to push them together.
Well, if they're bolted, you can't push them together. You suddenly have to put that family at 2 separate tables, which leaves 2 seats entirely empty.
Oh, wow, right.
And that is capacity down the drain. In a restaurant with a fixed service window, wasting 2 seats means losing out on 2 cover charges. So movable tables mean you can reconfigure the room on the fly.
Meaning you hit 100% capacity utilization.
Exactly. It translates directly to a massive increase in nightly revenue.
So while the corporate framing is all about this, family-friendly, open flow environment, the expansion of the casino and the open concept entertainment is really just a highly engineered strategy.
To capture onboard revenue, yeah.
Yeah, to capture more money during those peak evening hours.
I mean, I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive, but the revenue capture is undeniably the driving force there. You have to remember the rhythm of an Alaska cruise.
Day versus night.
Right. During the day, guests are off the ship on excursions, or they're glued to the windows with binoculars watching glaciers calve in Glacier Bay. The focus is entirely outward.
But at night, it's freezing outside.
Exactly. The Alaskan air gets freezing, the decks clear out, the entire passenger complement is driven indoors, and they become a completely captive audience.
So the goal of the open layout is to remove the friction.
Yes, any friction that stops them from spending. You want this permeable flow where a guest can easily wander from a free piano performance straight into the blackjack tables.
Or right into the jewelry boutique.
Without ever opening a door or making a conscious decision to enter a spending zone. So they are accommodating the family unit in the cabin, but they are highly monetizing that same family unit in the public spaces.
That friction removal strategy is just fascinating. But while Holland America is dealing with internal friction to increase spending, our next story looks at what happens when a cruise line faces a geopolitical friction so massive it completely breaks their itinerary.
This is a wild one.
It really is. Let's talk about Nicko Cruises, because they are being forced to radically re-engineer their global geography.
Yeah, this is perhaps the starkest example we have right now of how global security issues directly collide with the leisure and hospitality industry.
So to set the stage here, Nicko Cruises operates a 1,000-guest ship called the Vasco da Gama. And it is currently in the middle of this epic 175-night world cruise that left Hamburg, Germany, way back in November 2025.
Which is a massive bucket list investment for these passengers.
Huge investment, but because of the ongoing instability and security risks in the Red Sea region, Nicko has had to make some staggering alterations to the map.
And we need to emphasize that these aren't just minor port swaps. They aren't dropping one island for an island next door. They are basically rewriting the navigation of the globe.
Exactly. So there was a segment of this world cruise that began in Indonesia in late February, and the published schedule had that segment concluding in Dubai on March 20, 2026.
Right, a major Middle Eastern hub.
But instead, today's stories show the ship is completely bypassing that hub. It is dropping Dubai entirely and ending that segment in Port Louis, Mauritius.
And from there, it's a completely different route.
Right, instead of taking the traditional route up through the Suez Canal to reach the Mediterranean, the ship is going to sail through the Indian Ocean and all the way around the entire continent of Africa.
That is a massive detour.
They don't even expect to rejoin their originally published schedule until they hit Malaga, Spain, nearly a month later on April 17th.
The sheer maritime logistics of that reroute are just staggering. I mean, if you suddenly add thousands of nautical miles to your journey by going around Africa, you have to completely rework your fuel strategy.
And food.
Absolutely. You have to secure new provisioning contracts to feed 1,000 people in ports you never intended to visit in the first place.
But as massive as that reroute is, I really want to talk about their original backup plan because it provides such a wild look into how cruise lines actually try to manage risks.
Oh, the land bridge.
Yes. The original contingency plan wasn't to sail around Africa. It was to use a land bridge.
The Oman to Saudi Arabia land bridge. It was going to be a logistical high-wire act of the highest order.
Explain how that would have worked.
Okay, so the initial plan was to have all the passengers disembark the ship in Salalah, Oman. Then the crew would take the empty Vasco da Gama and sail it as fast as possible through the high-risk Red Sea corridor.
So the ship goes through empty.
Right. Meanwhile, the passengers would be put up in hotels, loaded onto charter flights, and taken on a 4-day land tour ending in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Where they would miraculously meet back up with the ship.
Exactly. They would reunite with the ship once it had cleared the danger zone.
Okay, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a passenger on a 175-night world cruise for a second. The fundamental appeal of a world cruise, the whole reason you pay a premium, is that you only have to unpack once.
Right. Your stateroom is your home for half a year.
Exactly. So the idea of suddenly being told by the captain, hey, pack a bag, get off the ship in Oman, take a charter flight across the Arabian Peninsula, live out of a hotel for 4 days, and cross your fingers that you're floating home makes it through a conflict zone safely so we can pick you up in Saudi Arabia.
It's a lot to ask of a passenger.
It is a deeply terrifying breach of the core product promise.
Right. That is precisely why Nicko Cruises ultimately abandoned that plan.
Yeah.
Because you can map out the charter flights and the hotel blocks on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But the psychological toll on the passengers is just too high.
Not to mention the total shift in the cultural vibe of the trip.
What do you mean?
Well, the passengers packed and prepared for the ultra-modern skyscrapers and desert luxury of Dubai. And now they are being dropped into the tropical, beach-heavy environment of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, true.
That completely changes your wardrobe, your excursion plans, everything.
Yeah, I will concede that the cultural shift is jarring. But when you look at the stark reality of the operational choices, sailing around Africa is really the only way to preserve the sanctuary of the ship.
It keeps them in their rooms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it adds astronomical fuel costs. Yes, it requires days and days of extra sea time. But it keeps the passengers safely in their cabins. They don't have to drag suitcases onto buses in Oman.
Right.
It proves that when faced with a crisis, cruise lines will prioritize predictable physical comfort over complicated logistical gymnastics.
And what's wild is that despite these massive global headaches, the demand from passengers for these extended voyages isn't slowing down at all.
Not even a little bit.
Nicko Cruises just announced their plans for the 2027-28 season. The Vasco da Gama is scheduled for its 5th world cruise. We are talking 172 days, leaving Lisbon in November 2027 and hitting 88 destinations across 48 countries.
They're even doing a smaller one too, right?
Yeah, they are offering a 125-day small world cruise option from Panama City to Lisbon.
Which really speaks to the remarkable resilience of the world cruise demographic. These are highly experienced travelers. They understand that the map is fluid, and they are willing to accept sweeping itinerary changes as long as the cruise line handles the friction and keeps them secure.
And Nicko is certainly banking on that resilience. They are aggressively marketing this 1,000-guest ship to travel agents throughout 2026.
Getting them on board to see it.
Yeah, they're hosting agent tours in Germany, hitting Hamburg in May and October, and Kiel in July and September, just to get sellers on board to experience the hardware firsthand.
They're also expanding their river fleet, aren't they?
They are, with a brand new Rhine ship coming in 2028. So the macro logistics of ocean security might be forcing them to rewrite their routes, but the business engine is still running at full speed.
Which is actually a perfect segue into our final story. Because we have looked at the massive hardware changes on Holland America and the global geographical shifts of Nicko Cruises.
The big stuff.
Right, the big stuff. But the re-engineering of the industry isn't just happening on a macro scale. It is happening on a micro scale, right down to the square footage of a single cabin.
So let's pivot from the heavy logistics of global security to the deeply personal logistics of what happens when you open your stateroom door on your birthday.
The cake controversy.
Yes, effective March 26, 2026, Norwegian Cruise Line fundamentally altered its pre-purchased $69 happy birthday package. They dropped the cake.
The traditional 6-inch birthday cake is officially gone from the package.
Gone entirely. If you pay the $69 now, what you get are birthday-themed cabin decorations, a celebration banner, a Compass Collection photo frame, and a $29.95 photo voucher.
And the fees.
Oh, right. It's worth noting that a 20% gratuity and a specialty service charge are still added at checkout, so you are paying nearly $85 out the door, and there is no cake to blow out a candle on.
So Norwegian's stated reasoning for removing the cake is heavily focused on sustainability.
Right. The corporate statement called it a small shift, designed to make the experience more personal and more connected while directly addressing food waste.
Food waste is a huge issue for them.
They noted that these small cakes were often left entirely uneaten because passengers are already surrounded by an abundance of food on the ship. Plus, cabin space is at a premium, and a cake box takes up valuable real estate on a tiny desk.
And before we dismiss that corporate statement, we really have to look at the brutal operational reality of food waste on a modern cruise ship.
It's hard to manage, I'd imagine.
It is one of the most heavily scrutinized metrics in the industry right now. Ships manage their organic waste through these massive complex systems called biodigesters.
Biodigesters?
Yeah. Think of a biodigester as the mechanical and biological stomach of the ship. It breaks down food waste so it can be safely and legally discharged according to strict maritime environmental law. But these systems have limits. They require a specific balance to operate efficiently. So if thousands of dense, sugary 6-inch cakes are sitting in warm cabins, going stale, and then being dumped into the garbage by room stewards because guests are already stuffed for the buffet.
That messes up the system.
Exactly. That creates a massive bottleneck for the waste management system. It's a literal drag on fuel efficiency and environmental compliance. So from an operational standpoint, the sustainability argument is incredibly valid.
I hear that. The mechanical reality of a ship's waste system is undeniable. It actually reminds me of the evolution of the hotel minibar.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. Hotels used to stock those little fridges with expensive snacks and perishable items until the hospitality industry analyzed the data and realized people weren't eating them. They were just expiring and taking up space.
Exactly.
But, I have to push back hard on the idea that Norwegian is doing this purely out of the goodness of their environmental hearts.
Okay.
Because if you look at their other offerings, the kitchen is still perfectly happy to bake a massive cake and send it to your room.
Oh, that is an interesting contradiction to explore.
It's more than a contradiction, it's a menu. You can log into their pre-cruise purchase system right now and buy a half-sheet cake for $124, which serves 40 people.
Wow.
You can buy a full sheet cake for $169, which serves 70. If you don't want cake, you can have a jumbo shrimp cocktail delivered for $50, or an international cheese collection for $108.
Okay, yeah.
If they were truly worried about overwhelming the biodigesters, why are they happily selling a 70-person sheet cake to be delivered to a standard cabin?
Okay, that is a very fair point. The sustainability argument provides great optics. But when you look at the economics of what they replaced the cake with, the photo voucher, the true motive becomes glaringly obvious.
Thank you. Isn't swapping a baked good, which costs the cruise line maybe $3 in flour, sugar, and labor, for a $29.95 photo voucher just a masterclass in building a sales funnel?
It is brilliant microeconomics. It perfectly illustrates how cruise lines are tweaking the smallest, most personal passenger perks to balance whatever sustainability goals they have with highly lucrative, high-margin offerings.
Because the voucher drives foot traffic?
Exactly. Think about the physical journey of that voucher. It costs Norwegian absolutely nothing to print a piece of paper or load a digital credit to your account. But what does that voucher actually do? It forces the passenger to leave their cabin and walk into the photo gallery.
It integrates them into a completely different revenue stream.
Yes. The photo gallery is a highly designed retail environment. Once you are standing there looking at all the professional, brightly lit photos taken of you and your family during the cruise, the psychological pressure really kicks in.
You're going to spend more.
Are you really just going to spend exactly $29.95? Almost never. Passengers routinely use that small voucher to justify or offset the cost of a much larger $100 digital photo package.
And even if they don't.
Right. Even if you exhibit iron willpower and just take the one free photo to put in your included frame, Norwegian has still successfully moved you out of your room and into a retail space where you might buy something else.
Wow.
They replaced a physical depreciating asset, a stale cake, with a digital coupon that acts as a targeted loss leader. Except it's a loss leader that costs them $0 to produce.
It's genius, honestly. But it's worth noting that the rest of the industry isn't in lockstep with this strategy yet. Competitors are still leaning into the traditional baked goods.
Who still has the cake?
Well, the reporting shows that Carnival Cruise Line still includes a small cake and decorations in their birthday package, which prices out at $73.14.
Okay, pretty close in price.
Yeah. And Royal Caribbean takes a tiered approach. You can buy just the stateroom decorations for about $40, or you can upgrade to their premium package for $69.99, which includes the room decor, strawberries, and a cake.
And that variance across the brands creates a fascinating split in how guests are reacting. If you look at passenger feedback, some people completely validate Norwegian's decision.
Really? They don't mind losing the cake.
Yeah, they admit they never ate the dense, fondant-heavy cabin cakes anyway, and they view a professional photo as a lasting memory and a genuine upgrade.
I can see that.
But there is a very vocal contingent who feel nickel and dimed. They feel that a birthday simply isn't a birthday without a cake in the room, and they deeply resent feeling forced to buy a massive $124 catering-sized sheet cake just to blow out a candle.
It is the perfect microcosm of the modern cruise industry. They are analyzing the data on exactly what we eat, exactly where we spend our time, and exactly how to optimize every square inch of the ship and every dollar in our onboard accounts.
Which brings us right back to our original premise, doesn't it? From the macrogeography of the Indian Ocean to the microeconomics of a photo voucher, the industry is in a constant, relentless state of reengineering.
It truly is. And next time you step onto a cruise ship, I want you to look closely at the details around you. Notice the flow of the entertainment lounges, pay attention to the exact routing of your itinerary, and consider the exact items waiting for you in your stateroom.
Nothing is an accident.
Exactly. Every open concept room, every rerouted port of call, and even the missing slice of cake on your birthday is a direct reflection of a rapidly changing world and a constantly adapting industry. Nothing you experience on board is an accident. It is all, quite literally, by design.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.